Don Enrique Mujica Arzok. No.
Inside Spain's parliament, deputies are voting for a new prime minister. One by one, names are called across the chamber as members respond from their seats. But then, they hear somebody shouting near the entrance. At first, nobody inside the chamber understands what is happening. But then, a man dressed in uniform walks up to the speaker with his pistol raised.
Hay un teniente coronel que con una pistola sube hacia la tribuna. En estos momentos apunta.
The deputies sit quietly, unsure of what to do, except for one man who stands up. Armed civil guards then flood into the chamber with their pistols raised above their heads. This is broadcast live on radio and filmed by television cameras. Gunfire. They all hide beneath their desks, except for the few men that are sitting in the front row. The armed men move toward the upper galleries, ordering the cameras to stop recording. They obey. All except for one that continues recording in secret. The Spanish parliament has now been taken hostage. 6 years earlier, the country was still ruled by General Francisco Franco. His regime had long controlled the military, the courts, the press, and political life itself. But in November 1975, he passed away, and Spain began its transition toward democracy.
Dígnate perdonar y llevar al cielo a nuestro hermano Francisco.
This was led in large part by Adolfo Suárez. He was appointed shortly after Franco's death, but under his rule, the country was struggling. Unemployment rose to record heights, inflation was surging, and the Basque separatist group ETA frequently conducted terrorist attacks. Many inside the military believed that the country was falling apart and that the new democratic government was too weak to stop it. One of such critics was Antonio Tejero. He was a commander based in a city just south of Madrid, and he was a hardline supporter of the old order. He saw Spain's transition to democracy as a collapse of authority, and he believed that the country needed a stronger hand. By early 1981, Adolfo Suárez was losing support from all sides. The pressure on him was becoming overwhelming, and in January that year, he decided to resign.
Llegado al convencimiento de que hoy y en las actuales circunstancias, mi marcha es más beneficiosa para España que mi permanencia en la presidencia.
This started the democratic process of electing another leader. In Madrid, in the Palacio de las Cortes, Parliament was scheduled to vote. It is the 23rd of February 1981, and this day, deputies were going to vote on who would replace Suárez as Spain's new prime minister.
Don José Nazarre de Letosa Conde. Sí. Don Carlos Navarrete Merino. No.
The chamber is packed. The room is hot. That's when Tejado entered. Suárez is sitting here, in the first seat of the first row. The man sitting next to him is standing up. This is Manuel Gutiérrez Mellado, a former general during the Franco dictatorship who had later become one of the strongest supporters of Spain's transition to democracy. As he walks up to Tejado, Suárez appears to make a gesture, trying to dissuade him from going. And that's when the other armed men enter. Gunfire. Tejado tries to force Mellado down, but to no success. Moments later, he sits down voluntarily, and the other men besides them come up from beneath their seats. The gunmen spread through the chamber. Some head toward the upper galleries and shut down the television cameras, while others remain on the floor below, keeping the deputies under armed guard. One by one, the deputies sit back into their chairs with their hands still raised. the four men in the front row refuse to show their hands. A few moments pass before an announcement is made.
No va a ocurrir nada, estén tranquilos. No sé si esto será cuestión de un cuarto de hora, 20 minutos, media hora, y la autoridad que hay competente, militar por supuesto, será la que determine qué es lo que va a ocurrir.
The deputies light their cigarettes. The room is quiet and slowly fills with smoke. The silence is only broken by the sound of coughing. Spain's parliament is now under armed occupation. Inside the parliament, nobody knows how large the coup really is. The gunmen control the chamber, but beyond the building, the situation is completely unclear. Is the army joining them? Has the government collapsed? No one inside can answer those questions, while outside parliament, confusion quickly spreads.
En un momento determinado y tras unos gritos, se ha desconectado, no hemos podido continuar la transmisión. Estamos esperando reanudarla dentro de unos minutos, si es posible.
One question hangs over everything else. What will the king do? For years, Juan Carlos I has been one of the key figures behind Spain's transition away from dictatorship. During the attempted coup, he was at the Zarzuela Palace just outside Madrid. After Franco's death, many expected the monarchy to preserve the old system. But instead, Juan Carlos had backed democratic reforms and supported the move toward elections and constitutional rule. But the military still viewed him as their commander. That made his decision critical. If the king supports the coup, large parts of the army will likely follow. The takeover inside the parliament could then quickly become the collapse of Spain's young democracy.
Sin que a esta hora se pueda precisar si ha habido alguna persona herida o si se han tratado de disparos de intimidación.
Spain enters hours of uncertainty. Inside the parliament, the deputies remain seated in their desks. As armed civil guards patrol the aisles above them, the lights stay on. Cigarette smoke hangs inside the chamber. Outside the building, Madrid is strangely quiet. Across Spain, regional commanders are being forced to make a decision. Some are sympathetic to the plotters, others are not. But all of them command troops, armored vehicles, and military bases. If enough of them join the coup, the takeover inside Parliament could become a takeover of the country.
Ante los acontecimientos que se están desarrollando en estos momentos en la capital de España, es mi deber garantizar el orden en la región de mi mando.
This is a message from the military commander in Valencia.
¡Viva por siempre España!
He supported the coup and sent tanks into the streets of the city. Armored vehicles take up positions beneath apartment blocks and traffic lights as civilians stop on the sidewalks to watch them pass. Inside military headquarters across Spain, phones ring constantly. The military has the strength to decide the outcome of this attempted coup, and commanders face a decision. Some began preparing their units, while others refuse to move with direct authorization from the king. Nobody knows who is actually in control. At the Zarzuela Palace outside Madrid, Juan Carlos I spends the entire night calling military commanders, one by one, while across Spain, millions of people are glued to their television sets and their radios to follow the events as Parliament is still taken hostage. Then, close to 1 a.m. in the morning, Spanish broadcasters interrupt their programming. A message from the king.
Al dirigirme a todos los españoles,
he's wearing a military uniform.
En las circunstancias extraordinarias que en estos momentos estamos viviendo,
the country stops and watches, unsure of which side he is on.
Y les hago saber que he cursado los capitanes generales de las regiones militares, zonas marítimas y regiones aéreas la orden siguiente.
For the first time that night, the uncertainty breaks. The king made his stance very clear.
La corona, símbolo de la permanencia y unidad de la patria, no puede tolerar en forma alguna acciones o actitudes de personas que pretendan interrumpir por la fuerza el proceso democrático que la Constitución votada por el pueblo español determinó en su día a través de referéndum.
He ordered the military to back down and commanders to respect the Constitution. Units that were waiting for direction begin standing down as support for the coup is now beginning to collapse. The atmosphere in the chamber changes. No broader uprising is coming. The attempted coup has failed. In the years that follow, the failed coup becomes a turning point in Spanish history. Antonio Tejero is arrested and sentenced to prison for his role in the takeover. The image of him storming parliament with a pistol in his hand becomes one of the defining symbols of the coup and of the last serious attempt by parts of the military to reverse Spain's transition to democracy. Adolfo Suárez never fully returns to political power, but over time, his role in dismantling the dictatorship and guiding Spain toward democracy becomes more widely recognized. The night of the coup strengthens the legitimacy of the system that he had helped build. And above all, the event transformed King Juan Carlos I, because when the decisive moment came, he sided publicly with the constitution rather than with the plotters. His televised address became the turning point of the night, helping isolate the coup and prevent parts of the military from joining. The military had long been one of Spain's most powerful political forces, but after that night of February the 23rd, that began to change. The military's role in politics began to shrink, while the democratic system, which was still fragile in 1981, started to solidify. For many Spaniards, that moment permanently changes the meaning of the monarchy itself. In hindsight, the night of February the 23rd is less about Spain almost losing its democracy and more about proof that it can't survive.